Hello class, my name is Joseph Murray and today I will be arguing in favor of euthanasia. Crazy as this sounds, for some, death can actually be a preferable alternative to life. In fact, 73% of Americans agree. A Gallup poll conducted in 2017 found that the vast majority of Americans support euthanasia or physician-assisted suicide. Euthanasia is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable disease or an irreversible coma. The most prolific arguments against euthanasia are based in morality, that under no circumstances is a loss of life morally acceptable. Today I would like to argue an alternative viewpoint, a viewpoint that stresses that in certain circumstances it is not only morally permissible, but also preferable to allow for the termination of one's life. My argument today relies on three main points. My first main point is a libertarian point of view, wherein I will argue that disallowing euthanasia is immoral because it tramples upon the freedoms and rights of the autonomous individual in Western society. My second point of view will be centered around the concept of morality itself. I will argue that under certain circumstances it is morally permissible to allow for the termination of one's life when that person is suffering to such a degree that life is torturous. My third point of view will piggyback off my second and refer to the Hippocratic Oath and their do no further harm clause. Well, let's get into libertarianism. Libertarianism is an ideology that stresses the free agency and rights of the individual. This ideology grants the final say in one's life to the individual. Libertarians argue that people in Western society, the United States included, ought to have free agency with their own life. Libertarians, myself included, see euthanasia as yet another example of something that should be up to the individual. If you are terminally ill and you would like to terminate your own life to save yourself heartache and pain, I take no issue with that. The leading libertarian think tanks also feel the same. Libertarianism.org, which is the leading libertarian think tank, also put an article out on euthanasia wherein they support it completely since it's the own person's choice. Furthermore, I believe that the government disallowing for a person to do with their life as they please when it causes no harm to others is an overstep of power by the government. The government should facilitate the ability to live our lives peacefully as you wish. What we do with our life past that is our own choice. Now that we have outlined libertarianism and a political platform where euthanasia is allowed, let's dive into my morality. I also believe that there can be a certain point in life where life is worse than death. A painful existence of a terminally ill, old, and dying person, for me, is one such example. The common argument against euthanasia claims that it is morally wrong to cause harm to a patient and assist in the termination of their life. I would like to argue that forcing a terminally ill person who is in grave pain to continue on living is equally immoral because of the unneeded pain and suffering they are forced to go through. For me, forcing someone to live in pain is worse than allowing them to end their pain. To piggyback off of why I believe it is morally permissible to allow for the termination of a terminally ill person's life, let's look at the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath is an oath that all medical practitioners take before being able to render services to others. The Hippocratic Oath has a clause wherein doctors swear to do no further harm to the patients. There's an article titled "Why the Hippocratic Oath Prohibits Physician-Assisted Suicide" in a magazine called Public Discourse. Public Discourse is a think tank centered around healthy debate. Their position comes to the conclusion that the termination of another person's life is in no circumstances acceptable, because terminating someone's life is undoubtedly causing harm. However, contrary to the popular point of view, I disagree. I think that the Hippocratic Oath actually allows for euthanasia to occur because there are certain circumstances where forcing someone to live causes more harm than allowing them to end their own life. I believe that allowing cancer to metastasize throughout someone's body and kill them slowly from within is a form of allowing more harm to occur. For that reason, I think every doctor that disallows euthanasia is complicit in forcing more harm to occur due to the pain and suffering that terminally ill patients go through throughout their life. I believe euthanasia can be the lesser of two evils because turning one person's life into hell on earth is not ideal. It's causing more harm to the person. So, given the ambiguity of most topics and debates regarding morality, your stance or what you believe in regarding euthanasia relies heavily on your own hierarchy of values and morals. For me, I believe first off that individuals ought to have the right to decide their own fate. If you have worked your whole life following the rules of others, I think that in old age, the least we can do is grant terminally ill folks the right to determine their own fate. I also believe that it is morally permissible to undergo assisted suicide because it can be the lesser of two evils. Being the lesser of two evils makes it okay by the Hippocratic Oath because euthanasia can stop more harm from occurring. A terminally ill patient is going to die either way, but a preemptive suicide will save a lot of pain and suffering and torture along the way. I do not want anyone to abandon their morals for the sake of my argument or believe with me just because I'm arguing this. I simply want you to open yourself to the possibility that euthanasia might be okay, and if ever the topic comes into your life, I'd like you to heavily consider what I've presented today. Sometimes in life, you're done. Sometimes you've accomplished all that you will accomplish, you've loved all that you will love, you've worked and worked and worked your entire life. It is wrong to, after the long and arduous life that many seniors have lived, disallow them from ending their own life on their own terms. Have they not suffered enough already?